Shift layers are one of the key features of reWASD. It allows us to have multiple behaviors on all buttons, grouped in layers that we can switch to while playing. Here, I have a secondary layer called aiming. I can select it to modify the mappings. A new layer will usually keep the mappings of the first one. Here, the keyboard and mouse tabs are empty, as they are also empty on the first layer. Here is how to add new layers. The first option will add an empty one. This should be enough for controller players. Here I have the different types of pre-filled layers. I will test the keyboard and mouse to Gamepad. Here now, I have the standard triggers on the clicks, mouse to right stick and so on. Here I see the layer name and how each one has a different color. I can also add one from Gamepad to mouse and keyboard to use to play with controller, games without controller support. I have mouse, and here I choose WASD. I do this to play stalker games with a dual sense. The last type of layer is native behavior. This layer is used to remove the mapping on all keys for them to work as default. This will set a mapping on all keys to Do Not Inherit. I will discuss this in depth later. This type of layer is used to disable the mappings without fully turning it off. Mostly used on mouse and keyboard configs. As you can see, it's every single key. Here, I will start with a new layer for mouse and keyboard. The colors I have always the same order. I will copy the layer to the first one, as the yellow is the default and best one to use as primary. I will clear the green layer. The mappings go grey, which means they are empty. I change the name to identify its function. No longer need the empty green layer. I choose the second layer to be for aiming down sights. On the left trigger, I add a switch using Shift mode and choose the second layer. It will make a hold switch. For mouse and keyboard, I usually do the native layer last, so it's at the bottom. This green layer has all binds disabled. Back on the main layer, I will use Home, but you can use any key. I delete the mapping. Make sure it's muted so it does not do anything else while playing. I will add Shift mode to the native layer. Then I select Toggle. The bind is now at the top as the switches are moved automatically. Let me save it and apply it. My mouse gets locked as expected. I can hold the left trigger to go to the second layer, the orange one. Releasing the trigger will switch back immediately. Pressing Home once will toggle to native behavior layer and unlock mouse and keyboard. Pressing it again will toggle back to the hipfire layer. Toggle layers will be only available if you have the rapid fire feature. Otherwise, all switches will be like this one. It switches only when you hold. On the second layer, I can change any button to a different one, even keyboard keys. The layer for adds, it's used to have a recoil combo on the trigger on a controller. Or in the left click on the mouse. This will play the combo only when aiming. When I have a key as a switch, it cannot have a different mapping on the same press. On start press, I have a hold switch. On the second layer, I can't have a different mapping. It can only have one output while switching. Different presses can have other bindings, like the release press. The release press has the switch back when you have it on hold, but you can add a new mapping because it won't trigger at the same time as the first switch. There is also a custom switch option that won't create the switch back. This is used for one-way switches for special situations. Here, I make a switch on the release press and assign the pad up. The mapping goes to the first layer as well as the switch can only have one mapping and it's on the final layer. Inheritance is when a key keeps the binding of the layer above. On the second layer, I copied all mappings. If I clear the whole layer, they will be empty. The mappings will be grey when they are inherited. If I add a new empty layer, all the keys are inherited, so they will be same as the first layer. I can add new mappings that will override the inherited ones, keeping the rest. I can also set any bind to Do Not Inherit. This will remove any binding and keep the native behavior. This is why the native behavior layer has all of the keys without inheritance. This is used for special layers, like using the death box on Apex. Here, I can keep some native binds and also add controller ones. I can also bind a key to itself. This will be helpful for a specific scenario. When we have a layer with binds without inheritance, or a mixture with controller binds, and you swap to a layer that has the binds, sometimes the key gets stuck. This happens usually with keys like WASD. If you hold the bind and swap layers, the key will get stuck as it is muted and will not send the message to release it. This is also common on the clicks. To fix any key getting stuck, I assign it to itself. The key will also get muted. Having the key like this will allow reWASD to have control of the key and send it only while on the layer, so it does not get stuck. Do this on any layer that gets stuck for you. This applies on controller as well.